So I'd like to call the meeting of the Maple Run Unified School District for December 15th to order. It is 6:03 p.m. First item on the agenda is the agenda review. We have a couple of things that we need to make some changes on. First of all, we're going to add, under item 6, we're going to add an item B, design team report related to community forum. And then we're going to add, I'd like to add, under item 11, we are going to have an executive session. There are 2 items we need to discuss. One of them is legal matters related to Title IX, and the other one is a personnel matter related to the Fairfield principal update. So those are the changes I'd like to make to the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So,
Thanks, Al. Joanna, you have a question? Are you okay?
Yeah, I thought we were going to put goals on the list for the agenda this week.
Goals are not on the list for the agenda this week. I apologize. We have quite a lot of stuff on the meeting. But it is, Bill and I discussed it, and we're going to set probably a separate meeting, a standalone meeting specifically for goals coming up. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. I need to take a roll vote. Al?
No, yep.
I think we were going to postpone the governance update as well.
That is correct. We're going to table it when we get to that action item.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to vote on that revised agenda. Al?
Yay.
Alicia?
Yay.
Bria?
Yay.
Jack?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Like we just started recording. Okay. Nina?
Yes.
Peter?
Yeah.
Susan?
Yes.
And Milda, yes. Okay, so we have a motion approved. We now need to rise for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
one nation, under God,
with liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is I would like to introduce a couple of individuals that are here. I'm going to introduce them both by name, and then they're going to give us a little update as to their backgrounds. First, there's Lisa Bettinger and Margaret Bass. These 2 individuals are from the design team for the community forum on race, and they wish to make an announcement for us to listen to. So I'm going to turn it over to Margaret and Lisa and let you guys make your announcements.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Bettinger, and we are 2 of the members of the design team that have been working to plan the community forum for weeks now. And what we want to do is to let you all know that because of the unrest in the community, we've had 3 different conversations over the last week and a half in depth to talk about the holiday memo and the impact of the online postings that have resulted. And because of some of the language used, like storming in some of the posts, and a desire to disrupt the forum, we are going to pause and reschedule it. So we were concerned about negative assumptions that people are making about each other and a possible potential for violence. So we're going to pause and regroup and reschedule it for after the new year. So the purpose of the forum is, there's 2 main purposes. One's to create the conditions for everyone's voice to be heard and respected, and two, to elevate shared community values so that disagreements can lead to growth and positive change. We do believe that real conversations across lines of difference are possible, and we believe that Vermonters want to bridge the growing gaps that divide us. And we're going to take a little bit more time to do that well.
Hi, I'm Margaret Bass. What else we do?
You can.
You can? Did you?
I did.
Okay, I'm not going to. I'm on the design team as well, and I want to say that we've had innumerable conversations about our proposed event, and as Lisa suggested, that we know that there has been a high level of stress and upset surrounding the letter. We also know that somehow we have been associated with the letter, that our conversations long preceded that, and so we are concerned about safety in general, safety of the community, of students, of our own safety, and we want to take the time to let the current controversy ease and continue to have conversations among those of us on the design team as to how to best initiate the conversation that we envisioned earlier, which by necessity will be different as a result of what we now know, right? We know some things about the community that we did not know before, and so the decision was not an easy decision for us to make. We made it as a group, the design team. We informed Bill of our decision. He had no input in encouraging us to make the decision. As I recall, he actually asked us not to change our mind. So this is our decision. And we wanted to come and let you know that, and to let you know why.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lisa and Margaret, for that announcement. It is distressing to hear that, of course, as a community, but as a board, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I can certainly state that we want to keep everyone safe. This is supposed to be a positive process, and therefore we look forward to a new date in the new year to look at having this community forum based on discussion about race and bias, etc. Thank you for taking the time to come in person and speak to us about that. It isn't really up for debate, but I just wanted to give a couple of moments for the board to be able to ask any questions of Lisa and Margaret if you have any, and we're just going to give it like a minute or two for that. So if you have any, this is the time. Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Ladies, I'd just like to say, first of all, I think that the whole community meeting is a great idea. It has great potential, and I totally agree with your decision, and I think it's courageous, the decision to make, and I want to thank you for that. I think let things calm down, like you said, and let's talk about the inner problems, which this may be part of it, but I think that's a wise decision. I congratulate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Joanna, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I was just wondering, thank you also, for coming this evening and letting us know. Do you plan to make a public statement? Do you plan to put something into the paper just to let more people know the intention of pausing and, rescheduling?
That's a good question. We haven't talked about that, but we will based on your question. So yeah, we'll figure that out.
All right. And Bill, you probably should work with them with that, right? Because whatever methods that we use to get the word out, we need to get the word out again.
Yeah, Neil, I've really been trying to let the design team do the work themselves. I'll be glad to facilitate communication and use the Maple Run website for that, and our Facebook feed, and our partnership with the Messenger. So I'll be glad to facilitate.
Yeah.
Just want to be clear, it's their work.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant, because there's some of those resources are our resources, so we just have to make sure they're available. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the visitors section of the agenda, and obviously make a public statement here. The public comment visitor section of the meeting is an opportunity for community members to address issues of concern about policy, budget, or administrative matters, or to share ideas about how we can work together to improve our schools. We value input and respect divergent views. We ask you to limit your remarks to the time constraints of 2 minutes per speaker per topic prescribed by the chair, that was me, and refrain from airing grievances with individual members of the school community, including respecting the privacy of the students and parents. Those attending remotely may type their full name in the comment section if they wish to speak. During the meeting, we may turn off the commentary part of the comment. If you do speak, we'd like you to state your name and the city or town of your residence. And just for the information of those that haven't been to our school board meetings, we make this announcement that I just read at the beginning of the visitor section for every school board meeting. So this is not diverging from the usual process. John, do we have any people remotely that wish to speak?
We do know the Brendan Deso is up first.
Brendan? Okay, give me 1 second, Brendan. Are there people in the room also that wish to speak?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so let's turn it over to Brendan. Brendan, you're on.
Thank you, Nilda. I just wanted to make a brief comment in support of Bill and the way he's conducted himself these last few days. If anybody hasn't had the opportunity to look at the video on Maple Run's Facebook page, you should take a couple minutes and do that. It was pretty powerful to see a community leader conduct themselves with so much humility. He identified a mistake that he made, explained it in detail, and sincerely apologized for it. And that's just a heck of a good example to set for the whole community, not just the students and staff, but for all of us. We all make mistakes. And again, Bill, the way you've conducted yourself the last few days, it's definitely something for the rest of us to live up to if we ever make a mistake in the near future. Thank you to the board, and Bill especially for moving forward in a positive way. And have a happy holiday, everybody.
Thanks, Brendan. And just for the record, those of you that don't know, Brendan is the chairperson of the St. Albans Town Select Board. Are there any other folks remotely that wish to speak?
That's it for now. Oh, actually, sorry, Ryer Erickson, and then that's it for the list for now.
Okay, hi Ryer, you're on.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry. So for the last several months, I've made it a point to express my disappointment in the district's decision to end the equity committee. The events of the last 2 weeks confirm this to me as a bad decision. The truth is equity, inclusion, belonging is all work that is best done as a group with a diverse and wide lens. So decisions like this without community input only serve to alienate the community. I'm still hoping the district reverses this decision to avoid these situations in the future. The disappointing fact now is conflating this move with equity and inclusion has given people who are either against equity and inclusion or unsure of what these movements mean ammunition to speak out against them. We have seen that in the town where months of talking about an equity, inclusion, and belonging committee were dashed because people who stand against these initiatives or don't understand what these initiatives mean were able to solidly point at the actions of the school district and say, see, it needs to be made clear that this action was not inclusive, and when it comes to equity was very lazy at best. It's ultimately ironic that the actions in the absence of an equity committee are now being used to deny this work. And it also now obviously has threatened the district's attempt to address racial harassment and justice. With people threatening to derail the discussion scheduled for tomorrow, I'm glad to see the decision to cancel that event and move it later. I think overall, my safety has also been threatened by private message numerous times because I was somehow blamed for this. While I didn't even agree with it and would have actively said I was against it, somehow I have also been blamed and accused for it as well. The harm done is palpable. It stretches far beyond the walls of the schools in this district. And I just really want the district to do better. I'm frustrated, sad, and frankly disappointed. I appreciate the apology of the superintendent, but it's like repeatedly over and over again, these mistakes happen. Sorry, thank you.
Thanks, Ryer. Any other public remotely wish to comment?
Lily, we have one more from Jeffrey Nelson.
Jeffrey Nelson, please speak.
Yes, good evening, folks. I also took issue with the, I guess we can be forgiven for being confused about it. I am reading an article a month ago about the Equity Committee, which apparently was founded over this summer or instituted and has a facilitator. I guess I heard recently that it has a director, and that was news to me. I wasn't aware of that, but and that may not still be the case. It appears very vague in the article, of course, what the circumstances that are. It's fair to say, like Ryer says, that it was the perception of many community members that because of the way that equity was mentioned in the release, that it was actually the work product of a greater body, and it's important, and I think it has damaged the conversation and has soured the atmosphere and whatnot. And I think I wanted to share primarily my overall analogy. The humans love analogies. They tell us part of something we understand in a way that we hope someone else will understand something. And the analogy I found to match my understanding is, in this case, that of dental care. And I really think that when I saw the notice for the forum, and as many things where we must keep a good faith, the good faith must be preserved because citizens that want to progress or they want to change, or they want good in their community, they have to preserve that. And the overall sense that I guess I would compare that from the nature of how the meetings was described from the outline on the memo is that of a teeth cleaning. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with teeth cleaning. It's part of an overall dental regimen. What comes first is brushing your teeth at home. We hope we all do that. These equity issues, we hope we wrestle with those issues in our private lives and at home. And I think what was proposed for an equity committee that was supposed to be happening already, what I heard about was more in line of fixing cavities. And I think that if it's structural change and overall good things that are supposed to come of something like that, I'm not sure that teeth cleaning, I'm not sure that's going to cut it. And so I wanted to encourage people to envision further structural change. And if that is a part of that structure, and I'm mistaking the power that teeth cleaning has, great. But let's not only put all our eggs in one basket. Let's not just think that either brushing your teeth or getting that dental cleaning is going to cut it. And I would really like to think there's no reason why that can't be a more fulsome equity committee established with the school district. I would like to hear more about that. I would like there to be an official component that puts that into a context, because obviously the bare bones I'm getting from the memo and from the St. Albans Messenger article aren't very effective. I don't feel I have fully grasped that. And I would love to know more, and I would love to preserve that good faith for the next time we all meet in groups and figure out how to make our St. Albans area better in that respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, what is your city or town of residency?
I'm in Fairfield. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else remotely wish to speak?
We do have a few more that have come in. Heather McKenzie is next.
Who is that again, please?
Heather McKenzie.
I'm not catching the name, but
Heather
if
McKenzie.
you heard her name, please speak up. Did you say Heather McKenzie, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay, Heather, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as the mother of a child who was directly impacted by some racial issues this year, I'm really saddened by how the community had kind of taken things way out of what they were supposed to be and what this was supposed to be about. I'm very happy that we've decided that they have decided to pause on things. But you know, my daughter is a senior this year, and even though she's a senior and we can be done with this school and move on, I just cannot walk away and just pretend that this stuff is not going to continue to happen to other kids who come to this town and to this city. And I'm really happy that you've decided to pause, but I really feel like something needs to be done, you know, for other people to come here and feel safe. I've lived here a long time, and I have never felt so disappointed in my community until racial things start to come up and people say they're not there. It's just ridiculous to me, but I just need to speak out because it affects me, it affects my children, and it's going to affect other children, and it's important. And I think it needs to be a priority. That is it.
Thank you very much.
Nilda, we have Kevin Moser next.
Kevin Moser. Mr. Moser. Heather, you said your daughter or your child went to BFA. Are you from City, Town, or Fairfield?
Town.
Thank you very much. Kevin Moser, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. First, I just want to thank.
Can you state your city or town of residence, please?
Town of Fairfield.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to thank Mr. Kimball, first of all, for reconsidering his policy last week. Surely was a confusing time for our community, and I just have a couple quick questions regarding the outside influence that's in the last week that seems to have been apparent on our school district, mainly with the dissolving of our equality community and what seems to be an outside consultancy that's been brought in. I guess I'm a little confused how people who aren't members of our community and seem to be consultants are the driving force in equity and inclusion and diversity in our community when we already had members of our community already established. And I don't know if Ms. Bettinger can address this question better than anybody else in attendance tonight, but I was just looking at the webpage for the organization she belongs to, the Partners in Restorative Change. My only question is, are they here to only facilitate a positive discussion in our community? Because hate obviously has no place in our community. Or is this the beginning of their holistic restorative schools project, which aims to implement supporting curriculum into the schools by 2026, 2027, what appears to be a pilot program? If anybody can just clarify what that is, and if there is any, kind of end state or end game with this organization, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. There is going to be an opportunity later in the agenda under reports to the board 6B, the design team for the community forum may give some additional commentary based on some of the questions that you asked. So please stay tuned for that. John, any other members of the public wish to speak remotely?
Nobody right now.
Okay, and is there anyone in the room there with you that wishes to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So hearing no further desire for public comment, I'm going to close the visitor section of the agenda out. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda there are 3 items on that, minutes and also a media packet. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items out for discussion? Hearing none, we're going to accept the consent agenda as submitted. Next item on the agenda is item 6A, governance update. I've received a request to table the governance update to the next meeting. And do I need a motion for that, Al? I do, don't I?
So
Can I have a motion to table that? Did you move that, Al?
I moved to table the governance till the next meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Jack. We have a motion and a second to table the governance update. I need to take a vote if everyone's ready. Al,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack, Joanna,
Yes.
Katie, Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Nilda, yes. Thank you, everyone, for that. The next item on the agenda related to reports to board is item 6B, design team for community forum. I'd like to turn it back over to Lisa and Margaret to see if they have any additional commentary.
Sure. I did want to respond to some of Kevin's questions, and I may not answer them all. I did try to take notes. So I know you were asking what is Partners in Restorative Change, who are we, what do we do? We are consultants that work with schools in Vermont, and what we mostly focus on is restorative practices. And what does it mean to build a culture and climate where all students can flourish within school districts, and to do professional development, facilitation toward that goal. It also includes how, when things go wrong, how can they be attended to so that relationships are at the core of that process, and that resolution can happen in a way that it feels really done. So that is what we do. It's mostly skill building, facilitation, and partnering with districts in the way that they would like. So we are responsive to the needs of different districts. For example, the request to be part of this community conversation was at the request of the district to help make that happen. And Kevin, if I missed anything I may have in your questions, I'd be happy to be in contact with you one-on-one and continue the conversations so that you can get your questions answered. I can tell you have some concerns.
Thank you very much for that. Any additional items that design team wishes to make? Discussion, anything? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you once again, Lisa and Margaret, for coming and sharing with us.
Excuse me, Nilda. I'm just going to say to Margaret and Lisa that they're more than welcome to stay, but I also know they need to get back to their homes, so I think they'll be leaving us, and just thank them for their help and support.
You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all. Safe travels. Yeah, drive safely.
Okay, next item on the agenda under old business is the budget presentation. We have a packet or an attachment, item 7A in our packet. Martha's going to take us through that, and also she's going to tag team with Bill related to budget discussion. So Martha.
Okay. So I kind of laid out the format that I use for budget presentations at the last meeting. And so what you see in front of you for the first 2 pages is the updated information from the last meeting. So the first,
excuse me, Martha, is there any way you can share it, or somebody could share that screen?
Yeah, give us a minute, John can get it. Hold on, it's got to go get it though.
I didn't catch what you said, Bill.
he's gonna do that, but if you give him a minute, he can share the printout. He's gotta go get it off the internet right now, off our board website, so he needs about a minute to switch. If Martha just wants to hold till he gets it, so let's just take a minute pause if you're okay with that, Nilda.
Yep.
Do you want me to get you? Come on, get you.
I think I can pull it up here.
Okay.
While John is doing that, I can give you a little bit of information that you don't have to have the documents in front of you for. I just wanted to let the board know that, again, this is not a final draft. This is just another reiteration of where we're at this moment in time in our budget process. And there are still many pieces of information that we're missing. Okay, might want to make that a little bit smaller.
Not too small.
I was gonna say, Martha, John can Zoom for you. He can scroll.
Thank you, John.
Okay. So the way I lay out my documentation is the first top of the first page, the top half of the first page, I should say, is the same information that you received last board meeting. There has been no changes to that information on the top section. The only one change was a checkbox put in under the heading where it says information still outstanding. If you want to scroll down a little bit, John. I can't tell exactly what everybody's saying. There you go. We have received one piece of information, and that is the Vermont Tax Commissioner's recommendation for a yield. So that information has been incorporated in this draft of the budget at this point. So then we move down to the next section, just under that next line. This is the updated information as of today. So our new information for the draft budget that's being presented is $65,104,985 as of today. The estimated expenditures, revenues haven't been updated because I still am waiting on multiple bits of information. So that education spending amount has increased only because we haven't made the corresponding revenue adjustments at this point. We are still using the equalized pupil count from last year because we still haven't received any information from AOE. That's usually due around the 15th of December. And I was informed, well, all business managers were informed last week that we most likely were not going to get that information this week. So we're waiting on that. So with that, the education spending per equalized pupil is showing at a 6.74% increase at this point, but that will change when we get new information. The next set of numbers is just the updated breakdown of the budget that is being presented. What you're seeing here is my notations as to the differences from the draft that you saw 2 weeks ago, which was the $64,202,000 to the $65,104,000. These are the areas where we made adjustments. And as I stated on the 1st of December, the school administration had not had a chance to review the documentation that I had pulled together. And there were various pieces of information that were missing and we needed to update. So the adjustment to the first draft to the second draft is $900,000 add-on. The next section is the area where I will be looking for the school board to set a tuition rate. That's not due until January 15th. And I believe we have another board meeting between now and then, so we will address that at that point. Then that brings us to the updated summary of expenditures. And there, like I said, the $900,000 changes are throughout this next 2 pages of information. It just kind of has been updated with the new information. And then that will bring us to the revenue page. Here. Where I have made a couple of adjustments from the last glance at the revenues. I've adjusted slightly the tuition income based on what I am thinking I'm going to request the school board to set the tuition rate for next year. And that's basically the only minor change I did to the revenues at this point. And then the final page, which I think is going to come up sideways on this screen. Yep. I don't know if you can flip that or not, John, but this is the draft of the tax rate. Okay. And the only piece of information that's been changed on here is the expense budget. We changed the amount to the amount we're bringing forward tonight. The revenues have been, like I said, adjusted minorly for tuition income. Equalized pupil count has stayed the same. The yield rate, we did adjust that. There were 2 rates recommended by the tax commissioner. And at this point, we feel it's in our best interest to go with the lower rate at this point, which would be the worst case scenario. And so this is where we are right now, which again is still in complete draft form and is nowhere near being finalized. That kind of takes us through the budget process, and I'm sure Bill will take it from here.
So John, maybe you can stop sharing. We can go back to it. So one of the things the leadership team we've been talking about since the first draft that came out that you saw in the last meeting was, and then we had subsequent changes, you can see that the expenditure budget here is a 6.74% increase. One of the things that I've changed this year in the budget process was ask the principals and the program directors, what do you need? Knowing that I want the board to know what was the cost of what we needed to provide an education here in Maple Run. Please do not think I'm naive that I think a 6.74% expenditure budget is one that will go to the voters. I've asked, there are many, let me finish my first sentence. I've asked the principals and directors to start to create a cut list. But because there are so many pieces of information that we would usually have by today, one being equalized pupils, which is a big factor in cost, with the way the state education support formula works, and the dollar yield, and then the CLA, it's hard to make cuts right this minute. I've instructed them to make cuts that get us down to a 5%, a 4%, and a 3%. Because we know we're going to have a fast and furious first week of January, which is usually what we go through every year. Martha and I have talked about that, and we've all experienced it. That first week of January is where we're making cuts to bring to you. But as we've experienced the past 2 years in Vermont, the Agency of Education is not able to make their statutory requirements to get us information at the right time. So it's hard for us to make recommendations to you as a board of where we should be at. But I just want to be clear that I realize that 6.74 expenditures is too high. But I also think it's good for the board to have the information, especially with the increased mental health needs that we have, and that's impacted this budget for students, that, you know, we've put in quite a few positions the past year or 2 or 3 in that's increasing our needs. And we want to reflect that to you so you're informed, but at the same time realize what the community can afford to spend. So, and so we'll be working on that. We're doing some work tomorrow in this room with the leadership team on that, and we'll be doing more work on that coming back in January as well, that first week of January. Thank you, Martha. I don't know, Martha, if you have anything to add to that. You and I have been the ones kind of re-looking at this.
Nope, I don't have anything more to add unless anybody has questions.
I guess the other thing I would add before we go to questions is that the leadership team this year is working very collaboratively to look across all the entities. So they're not, before the budget process was very siloed to each program or school and didn't look across schools unless that was done by the superintendent or business manager. So we're doing that as a team now. And that's some learning for all of us at the same time. And puts more heads in the room to say what's best for all of Maple Run. So.
Hey, questions for, sorry. Okay, it looks like Joanna and then Jack.
Bill, can you explain how your what the process is going to be for Fairfield, since there's an interim principal right now, in terms of what body of people are communicating to you the needs of the school for next year?
So we've had time to talk. Casey's not here tonight because I want him to help ask that. He's been talking with the leadership team up there, and we've been putting that in. That's part of why we're taking a look at this all as Maple Run, because we need to be able to understand what the budget history has been at. Jack, can you mute your mic?
No, Bill, I'm sorry, Bill. It's, there's a lot of reverberation right now, so it's really hard to make out what you're saying.
Yeah, no, we just muted Jack. I think that took care of it. How am I now, Joanna? Good. So, Casey's been working with the leadership team up at Fairfield and talking about what we have, but we've also are looking across the district as a leadership team and what there are the different schools and needs and entities and what has been in the budget for the history as well. And the history of the Maple Run budgets pretty much are when the schools were merged into one district, the budgets just kind of kept increasing. There wasn't a talk across the whole system. We are now doing that as a team. Jack? I think Jack had a question. No, you're on mute.
I'm not trainable, I guess. Jack, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've got two questions. One is about this year's budget, and the second question is about the proposed next year's budget. The question about this year's budget is, what savings are we seeing with the fact that we can't hire many staff members, supposedly, and are we saving money because of that?
Martha, do you want to go at that? Or you want me to go at that?
Well, actually, Bill and I are going to be working on that on Friday. I have a better answer for you after that.
Okay. The second question is about the staff members who subscribe to benefits and other items that affect their overall compensation. Are there any major changes that would affect either an increase to the budget for next time or a decrease? Sometimes that category can generate either an influx to the budget or a decrease to the budget. So I just wondered if there was any help in that area.
Yeah, I can do a little bit, and then Martha can help me with details, Jack. Two things. We know that for next year, and I know it was in Digger, there was a settlement between the Vermont NEA and the School Boards Association, or at least an announcement of an article. I'm not up to date on that. But next year's health insurance is at 5.2%. Is that correct, Martha?
Correct.
You should give me the nod on that. And Martha and I did a calculation. The leadership team doesn't even know because we did it this afternoon. But if you took all our current staff, not all the positions, but our current staff, and took what we have in there for salary increases and benefit increases, it's about, and you just rolled them over as the current staff configuration, it's about a 2% increase on the budget.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks for that.
Any other questions related to budget? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the COVID update, which is item 7B under our agenda. Bill?
Yeah, not a lot of change since the last board meeting. I'd like to let the board know. Last year, at this time, we've had 97 cases of COVID within our school system. And last year overall, for the whole year, we had 47. So we're well beyond that. Since we last met, and I could be off, I did get a chance to have Aaron confirm my count. But I think since the last meeting of this group on the 1st, we've had 8 or 9 COVID cases. Because I figured someone would ask me, have you seen a Thanksgiving spike? And we really haven't. That's kind of about what we roll for a 2-week period, is about 9-10 cases. So we're averaging 4 to 5 a week, something like that. We're still having staffing issues at SATEC and SACS at both city school and town school. We're averaging somewhere roughly around 15 absences a day as staff. We've had as high as 30 at an individual building. I got to really commend and thank our staff. They have really taken it. There's been articles in the paper from other places and other media places where, the staff are really getting worn down because there are many of them that don't know what their job is until they walk into 6 in the morning because they're being moved around so much. And it's getting really tiring on them. A colleague that's on this call right now said to me, and I agree with them, we need a good old-fashioned snowstorm that gives us 2 days off. Because people just need a break. That's where our staff is at. And the folks who really need a break are the leadership team. They're getting called, they're constantly juggling. I was in one of my colleagues' office this morning. We couldn't do our regular agenda, not because we didn't want to, and they were trying hard. It was just the response that they had to do. Our educational leaders are educational managers right now and not leaders, because they're not working on instruction as much as they are working on just keeping the building open. That's their daily task, day to day.
Did you say 15 absences per day?
Per day, per staff, per...
For the entire district?
No, for those buildings, for those 2 buildings.
City and town?
Yeah, they're average around 15.
Each?
So we don't have people, we don't have subs. So instructional aides, coaches, para-educators, behavior folks, we're missing staff. They're just jumping into positions so we can cover. They really, anytime you see some of them, you just give them a pat on the back. It's a really, I know how tiring it is. I don't know personally, but I know enough people that I've talked to, what they're going through. I can see it on their faces. They just, they don't have any standardization into their job day to day. That's what they're going through. But I just applaud them for coming back every day in the service of kids.
Thanks, Bill. You probably all heard this on the news, but Monday was the 1-year anniversary of the first administration of a COVID vaccine, and it's a year later. Here we are. All right, next item on the agenda is item 7C, implicit bias and anti-racism training. I think we've covered quite a bit of this topic tonight, and as you know, we've postponed our community forum, so look for this on the future agenda. Okay, item 8 under new business. So, of course, item 8A is winter celebration. So by now you're aware that there was a second memo that came out by Bill and also communications via a short video regarding the winter celebration. So I don't know if there's any additional information or commentary that we need to discuss related to this. Bill, do you have anything you want to add, or anybody have anything they need to discuss here?
My piece, Nola, is just to reiterate what I said in my video that was filmed Monday night and was posted on Tuesday morning. I think that said it all, and I, again, apologize for my actions. The intent and impact were two different pieces, and I think I've said that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nilda, I just had so again, Bill, thank you for that. I watched it, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because I know it was a hard thing all around. I guess my question is moving forward, because I know the second letter was kind of giving some pointers, like, okay, this is, what we can do to kind of, do it through this year. Are there plans, or again, maybe this is premature, to what this might look like next year? Keeping it positive, keeping everybody included. Has that been thought of, or is that, again, something that we just need to work on?
I think that's something the leadership team should discuss. We have some good models from other school districts. Winooski being one of them, and we can take a look at that.
Okay, and then just another question too, and I guess it's just from social media reading. This wasn't made out of a policy that we have. And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that, because I think there was a surprise. People thought it was a new policy, and that's certainly not the case. I just wanted to kind of make that comment. It's just we're kind of looking at this through an equity lens, and we're probably see not more of this, but we're going to be more thoughtful, and as we move forward, and this is not going to be an easy thing. So again, if I'm saying anything out of context with the policy, but I just want to make that clear that it's not, this wasn't done out of a policy that we made that people weren't aware of. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'd just like to make a proposal. I know this was lots of controversy through this whole matter, and the public spoke loudly and clearly online, and I think a number of them showed up tonight, although not many spoke. I think the public wants to speak and be heard, and they were going to, if you will, storm the other thing, which I'm glad isn't going to happen. We're going to give them time, but I almost think we ought to get together and at some time listen to the public on this. They're the ones who we're going to be asking them for a positive vote on the taxes. And I think they want to be heard, and I think we should find an opportunity to listen to them.
Thanks, Peter. We can certainly explore that after the holidays and after Bill has an opportunity to discuss this with the leadership team and see what direction we should go in. Any other comments, questions? No, I'm going to move on. I'm not seeing anything. So item 9 is the warrants. I need a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that.
Milda, I do have a comment about the video and the, I think it was courageous of Bill, to make his second memo and to do the video. But I was a little bit alarmed at some local politicians who took it upon themselves to act like they were to blame, like they were the influence to Bill. I think Bill's conversations with himself, with the board chair, with some other board members about this, caused him to make a very tough decision. It's always hard to recap and to make a decision like he did, to admit a mistake and so forth. But I don't think local politicians were the influence. I think Bill made this totally on his own, and maybe had some counsel with the board chair and so forth. But that kind of irritated me. Not what Bill did, but that local politicians took it upon themselves to use this as a little moment to shine, as if they were the ones that caused Bill to make his decision. And I don't think that was the case at all.
Jack,
Thanks, Jack. What's that, Al?
Remember, I hate to disagree with Jack. There's an old adage. Some of my friends were for it, and some of my friends were against it. I'm for my friends. That's what the politicians were doing. They jump on any bandwagon that comes available.
Well, thanks, Al. I mean, I think the good news of the story is that if we can collaborate with our community partners and get to a better place, we should take advantage of all those opportunities along the way.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, Nelda. But what I'm saying is that sometimes Bill took it upon himself. That was the decision that he made. It wasn't influenced by anybody else, because you can only influence yourself.
Right.
To stand there and say, mea culpa, mea culpa.
I appreciate all of that, and I can certainly attest to the fact that Bill has agonized over this quite considerably, and I believe came to the right decision in moving forward. All right, thank you for all of that. So I'm on item other business warrants. So I need a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that passage of this motion will act as authorization and signature of an individual board member participating remotely.
So moved, Nilda.
Thanks, Joanna. You beat Al to that. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Who said that? Susan?
I guess I'm in no man's land.
That's okay, Al. It's okay. You can't make every motion. Sometimes you gotta share. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the warrants. Any questions? Any comments? Ready to vote? Okay, Al. Yay or nay? Alicia? Grant?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Peter?
Yeah.
Susan?
Yes.
Hilda, yes. Motion carries unanimously. And now, moving on to item 9B, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Nilda. I have one thing to add, and a bit of good news. I'd like to thank my colleague Stephanie Ripley, because she's been the one spearheading this. But she applied and received a child care stabilization grant funded through the American Rescue Plan Act. This grant's helped to support child care, and it's through the department. It's from the feds, but it's awarded through the Vermont Department of Human Services. The Maple Run School District has been awarded a grant for $92,000, $43,000 at city school, $34,000 at town school, and $15,000 at Fairfield. The grant money can be used for rent, facilities maintenance, PPE, updated equipment, and supplies. After speaking with the principals, we're beginning to investigate ways to improve and add to our outside playgrounds for pre-K. And so we're going to be using this to really renovate and to make them more accessible to all students. An example is we have chips and stones on some of our playground areas. I think they're all wood chips now. But that we really should have mats for kids that are in wheelchairs or other devices so they can roll across the play surface. So that's just one example of many. We have some wooden structures that need to be repaired and turned into metal structures. So Stephanie, thank you so much for your hard work in getting this grant, and we have to have it done by the end of next calendar year. We have about 12 months to put it in place and build the federal government for it. So that's a nice piece of work for our younger kids.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for that grant application and achievement. Anything else, Bill?
I think I've had enough of the floor for tonight.
Okay. All right. Item 9C is board announcements. Does anyone have any board announcements to make? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on to agenda for future meetings. We have the IT study. We have the setting goals. I mentioned that we're going to probably have a freestanding separate meeting for that. I've also added the 5-year plan report. We're going to have that in January. We originally were going to do that this month, but with all the other stuff going on for this meeting, we moved that to January. Any other items for future meetings? Okay, moving on to item 11. We do have a need to go into executive session. We have 2 items to go into executive session for. One of them is legal matters related and Title IX, and the other one is a personnel matter related to Fairfield principal update. In both these situations, there's definitely a finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place both the public body, us, or the persons involved at a substantial disadvantage. So hearing that, we need a motion to go into executive session. And Bill, I need for you to help me with who we need in the executive session besides the board members, please.
I would need John Muldoon for the personnel matter at Fairfield. And then I'll be there for the legal.
Okay, so I need that motion to go into executive session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Al,
Yay.
Alicia,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Nilda, yes. Okay, so how are we going to handle this, John? Are we going to go into a breakout room, or are we getting rid of everybody and staying here, or how you doing it?
So we're gonna put everyone in a breakout room, and then the board members, John and I, will go to the other conference room, and we'll do the breakout room from there, and then we can come back in or something.
Okay, so we're going to get an instruction on our.
Yeah, it's gonna tell you that.
Okay, thank you. We just completed our executive session. It's 9:30, 7:35. Yeah.
There's still some people in the public session that haven't moved over yet.
Okay.
The room will close in 5 seconds. So you just got to give them 5 more seconds.
Okay, I think everyone's here now.
Yep, everything's closed up now. You're good.
Okay, so we just ended our executive session at 7:35. And is there any more business to come before the board? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Please.